Hello and welcome back to our introduction to programming and problem solving series. In this particular lecture video, we'll be looking at high-level programming languages. So we say high-level programming languages are close to the natural language, that is the language that is spoken and written by humans. Okay. So Python, high-level programming language, uses print, if, input, and while statements. All of these are words from the English language, and then they are used to form instructions. The instructions normally look like, or most of the times look like, abbreviated English sentences. Okay. So a high-level programming language is a programming language designed to simplify computer programming. High-level languages contain easy-to-read syntax that is later converted into low language. So the high-level language print. Okay. Example, print. This print is a high-level language, helps programming to be easier for humans. But to the computer, this has to be converted into the low-level language. That is the ones and zeros that we already learned earlier. Okay, so examples of high-level programming languages. We have C++, we have C#, we have COBOL, we have Fortran, we have Java, we have JavaScript, we have Python, we have Pascal, we have PHP. They are other different programming languages, high-level programming languages. Each programming language is basically created for a specific purpose or has a domain that is very efficient or strong. Okay, so next, let's look at high-level programming languages category. So they are the high-level programming languages can better be categorized into procedural programming languages, object-oriented programming languages, functional languages, scripting languages, logic languages, declarative programming languages, markup and domain-specific languages, and concurrent programming languages. Okay, so what is a procedure-oriented language? This programming language executes a series of statements that leads to an outcome. So in procedural programming, the program is typically divided into functions, procedures, or routines that perform specific tasks, which are then executed in a defined order. Characteristics of procedural programming languages. It has a linear flow of execution. Here we are saying that programs are executed from top to bottom following a linear sequence of instructions. Modularity. Code is organized into reusable blocks called functions or procedures that handle specific tasks. State and data. The program state, that is variables and data, is usually modified through functions and procedures. They have control structures. Procedural languages use common control structures like loops, that is the for and the while loop, conditionals, and like if and an if else, and then function calls to control the flow of execution. Then there's this object-oriented programming language. So this programming language treats data as a collection of objects that has some internal data and some external portions of that data. So this kind of programming language aims to think about the problem by separating it into an object collection that offers solutions that can be used to resolve a particular issue. Characteristics of object-oriented programming languages. 1. Encapsulation. So encapsulation is the capturing of data, okay, and keeping it safely and securely from outside interfaces. That is encapsulation. Then there's this inheritance. This is the process by which a class can be derived from a base class with all features of the base class and some of its own. So this increases code reusability. So what we are saying is that there is a base class, or there is a parent class here, and then based on that structure, or based on some components or properties or features we create another program from that, taking or using same properties of this. Okay. The next is polymorphism. This is the ability to exist in various forms. For example, an operator can be overloaded to add two integer numbers and two floats. Okay, so here we are saying the ability for a program, okay, to exist in different formats. Let me give a typical example of polymorphism. Okay, so let's consider a father or a man. Okay, so a man to a child, okay, becomes a father. Okay, a man to the wife becomes the husband. Okay, so here this same person becomes a father to the child or to the son, and then becomes a husband to the spouse. This same man could even become a son to another man. So the ability for this particular object, okay, or entity or class to exist in different forms, okay, based on different scenarios, is what we term as polymorphism. Okay. Abstraction. When we talk about abstraction, all we are saying is the ability to represent data at a very conceptual level without any details. So a typical example of an abstraction is having a coffee machine. Okay, so you just add water and then probably add some coffee. You press a button and then it gets the coffee, let's say done or something like that. And you don't need to know what actually happened inside there. Pressing the button, electricity passing through, you don't need to know that. So abstraction is basically representing data at a very conceptual level without revealing any details. So pressing the button, there were stuff that will happen there, but you don't need to know that those details are not known to you, or you are not exposing what is happening when you press the button. So that is the concept of abstraction for you. So the next is generic classes. So you'll be looking at classes in our next presentation. So when we talk about generic classes, class definitions for unspecified data, that's where they are known as container class. They are flexible and reusable. We are going to look at this in detail. Okay, class libraries. So object-oriented programming has what we call class libraries. That is, they have built-in language-specific classes. We'll be looking at that in our next slide or in our next lecture. The concept of object-oriented programming. Okay, what a class is, what an object is, what a property or an attribute is, and what a method is.